Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick update on my experience with the WinBook TW100. This is a 10.1-inch Windows tablet priced at $200 and arguably the most powerful and affordable tablet ever made, not just within the Windows world, but the entire mobile market. And I'll get to that a little bit later. In terms of, again, that pricing and specification combo, at $200 you're getting a 10.1-inch Windows 8.1 tablet. That is the full version of the operating system, 32-bit mind you, and you're getting a 1280 by 800 IPS, again 10.1-inch display, 5-point multi-touch, not 10 like much of the competition, but still very competent, and at least in my experience, everything works on here very well. No dual-band Wi-Fi, but again a compromise at the $200 price point. Intel Bay Trail processor powering the entire experience, which does work very well. And that's what really makes this offering so compelling, is that the 32 gigs of internal storage, which even after having Windows 8.1 pre-installed out of the box, afforded roughly 20 gigs of free space, which is very impressive for 32 gigs of internal storage. Hard-pressed to find another device that will give you that much free space on a 32 gig model. But keep in mind, you do have a microSD card slot on here for storage expansion. You also have a USB 3.0 port, something that you will be hard-pressed to find on anything competing with this. Essentially what you're looking at is, as I mentioned in my unboxing, in many ways a clone of the Asus T100, which is much more expensive. Yes, it does have, I would say, better build quality and form factor because of the true clamshell design to really emulate a laptop experience, where here the laptop, the keyboard experience does come together nicely, but not quite as well, and I'll get to that a little bit later. For $40 you can pick up the optional keyboard. I think it's $50 normally, but Micro Center has it on sale for $40 now. That's if you can find it in stock, and that's another thing. This has been selling very well because at $200, again, unrivaled computing power. Now keep in mind, only 2 gigs of RAM. This isn't a full-blown laptop, so don't try to treat it as such. That doesn't mean that it can't do much more than any other mobile tablet, because it can. You have 2 cameras. You can see the front-facing one right there, both rated at 2 megapixels, and they're both decent, nothing special. I would never recommend using a camera on a tablet to begin with, but it's nice that they're actually there. In fact, the Asus T100 does not have 2 cameras, so that already shows you there's a little bit more polish here in some ways. In terms of fit and finish, the actual build quality, all plastic, a little bit of a rubber finish around the edge of the tablet, you can see right there. And it gives it a nice grip, I will say. I don't have any real problems with the build quality. You can see that soft touch plastic, almost rubber feeling also is nice, but it does pick up fingerprints relatively quickly. I have noticed from using it, it looks like the finish from the WinBook keyboard is coming off a little bit there. You can notice a little discoloration, but not a big deal, because this is what's so important about this. Well, I won't pass the power button. The power and volume rocker right here, by the way, both also do a good job. I say that because often I'm not pleased with the way buttons fit into the actual environment on the design. Here they are placed well and work well. And also are different, by the way, from the other clone of this device on the market that Newegg carries. So in other words, I am saying the Micro Center version does seem to be superior in just about every way, even though they're so close on paper. No USB 3.0 port on the product over at Newegg. So you can see the USB 3.0 right there, top of the left side of the device, or just the left side for those of you looking at it on camera right now. And it really is a critical feature. I can't reiterate this enough. You can use any USB wired peripheral, and then when it comes to speed, if you're using a USB 3.0 hard drive, jump drive, this is a major advantage. Now, I'm not seeing write and read speeds off of this port that are amazing, but they're certainly better than USB 2.0. So does that mean this is a top tier port? Not necessarily, but definitely a big advantage over traditional 2.0 speeds. When it comes to the micro SD card slot, it's right next to it, and I actually have a 128 gig card in there right now. So essentially, that's a huge thing for those of you worried about storage capacity. And I also say that because Micro Center actually lists the maximum size supported at 32 gigs. So luckily, that's incorrect information. 3.5mm headphone port there, also good of course for a mic jack. And then you have your HDMI out and your micro USB for charging. Now I mentioned 6 to 8 hours of battery life. It all depends on the brightness that you actually use. And then when it comes to the charging time, you're looking at about 5 hours. I wish the included cable was a little bit longer, but the length is still pretty nice. The great advantage though with the TW100 is that you can seamlessly jump right into your desktop. And of course, no limitations here, essentially a standard when it comes to computing, and that means you can run anything you want. So while the actual environment for the tablet side has developed and matured a lot, which makes this again an even more compelling value because the tablet side is actually legitimate now, unlike it was years ago when Windows 8 launched and it was in its infancy. Again, not up to iOS or Android standards, but catching up, and certainly there are things there for just about everyone to use. And at $200, it's a bargain in itself. But then you have the desktop side, and if you respect the internals, if you understand that you can't treat this as a full-blown laptop and expect that sort of performance, but understand that for light computing, something that most tablets can't even do, this is a respectable machine, and at $200, it's a steal. Of course, eventually I'm sure Micro Center may lower the price on this, and we may see other generations of this, versions from other sellers. Again, this is the more competent one when compared to Newegg's version under another name. I think it's Vulcan or something like that. I believe a Mexican firm. But the point is that this device, it is manufactured, by the way, by Micro Center. If you go to WinBook's warranty page, you'll see it is directly linked to Micro Center. So they are manufacturing this, or essentially ordering it is what I'll say. And they've done a good job. The keyboard, something I mentioned before, I want to get to that. I'm not going to demo software here. As I mentioned, you can run anything. If you try to run programs that are demanding, you're not going to get optimal performance because, again, you're working with a mobile processor and you're working with 2 gigs of RAM. That is far from ideal for running full-blown desktop applications that are demanding. So this does fully work as a Windows machine, but with limitations. And as far as bugginess or lag or any sort of real problems, I've experienced hiccups here and there, but nothing that would warrant me to tell anyone to stay away from this machine. Performance is pretty much, again, on par with the Asus T100. Critical difference is just the experience with the keyboard, and build quality is different on the two machines, no question about it. But let me bring in the keyboard. Again, this is that optional keyboard, and at $40, $50, it's fine. It's serviceable. Of course, you could use any keyboard you want, but this is made for it. It acts as a case. It does have a full touchpad with multi-touch that actually does work, believe it or not. And the right and left click I actually happen to appreciate a lot as well. It's something that with a lot of the competing products you don't necessarily have. They just have the clickable touchpad. The keyboard actually is good for work. So if you're a student, which is who I think this is a great device for, or even just, again, anyone out there looking to do light computing, you can actually get a lot of work done on this keyboard, surprisingly, despite its form factor and the fact that you're working with a 10.1-inch Windows tablet. Magnetic connection right here, that's how you actually dock it. I'm not in love with the TP or tent style of backing here. As you can see, that's how it basically props up the tablet, and I'll show it to you right now. It works, don't misunderstand me. It's just far from optimal when it comes to flexibility. But at $200, you have to keep in mind you are getting a lot. I mean, just in the tablet itself, then include this, and you're in a whole nother league. So there you have the full package. As you can see, this is your only angle. You have to be mindful of this falling forward. That's another thing to be aware of. The only thing connecting it is the actual magnetic connection down here. So if you're not careful, if the tent starts to actually expand, you can see that can happen. There are a couple of different ways that this could end up getting ugly. So as long as you are aware of those things, which are things I've learned so far in using it, Again, they're very small issues for what overall is a great machine, but that is an advantage to the Asus T100 where there is a real physical connection between the keyboard and the actual tablet itself. But this does have the advantage of when you do close up the machine of becoming an actual case and allowing you to take this thing on the go, complete package. And this is where it does act as a laptop replacement, no question about it. I mean, you have HDMI out. The advantage of being able to charge from micro USB is huge, but keep in mind you want to stick with the included charger. It charges at a higher rate than your standard cell phone or your smartphone charger. So if you charge from the actual included cable, which again I wish was a little bit longer, you're looking at roughly, I would say, somewhere around 5 hours to get a full charge. But that's not that bad when you think about, again, battery life of 6 to 7, maybe even 8 if you're not doing really heavy tasks. So there's a lot to like here. Very affordable at $200, no question about that. Has every port you could possibly want to emulate a full-blown computing experience. And as I mentioned, it even has compatibility for up to 128 gigs. You can see right there that card. And that's what's really impressive. I mean, to be able to throw a 128 gig card in there, your mass storage is instantly solved. And don't mind the fact that there are only 5 and almost a half gigs available. That's because quite a bit has been installed on this machine already because it's been in full use. So a lot to like here with the WinBook TW100. It'll have its skeptics, its critics that feel that it doesn't come up to par with what the competition offers, but in my opinion, I think it does everything well, and the small issues it has, like every machine on Earth that is not perfect, very small ones to deal with considering the extraordinarily low price point at the tablet alone, at least price, again, because remember, you can use any keyboard mouse combo you want, and there are a lot of third-party cases out there that will work with this because of its 10.1-inch fairly standard form factor. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them, and of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.